Welcome everybody, Dr. Medic here. This month we have everybody's favorite Texan man, Engineer. This is the 6th installment. If you don't know at this point, this is the series where I take my underappreciated weapons video from last July and I cut it up into segments for your enjoyment. It is one weapon for each slot, but to make it a bit more interesting, especially for those who have seen the original video, this one will have one new segment at the end, if not two, created specifically for this video that was not in the original video. That weapon could be for any slot I want it to be. Now that you're caught up, let's go. Alright, Engineer. Ooh, Engineer. Engie doesn't really have many weapons to begin with, so there are a few weapons that are really underrated since every one of them was pretty well tested. You know, it's a little easier to kind of keep in your mind what weapon's the best. So this is going to be really tough. The primary I decided to choose to talk about for the Texan man is really not underrated at all. It's just that I see it far less than any other weapon besides the Thompson, which in my opinion is pretty properly rated as one of the worst designed weapons in the game. Not even the weird Uber and Cloak Drain can save that piece of garbage. Anyway, no, the weapon I am going to be discussing, like I said, isn't super underrated, but I see it a lot less than I probably should. The Panic Attack. The Panic Attack isn't disliked, but I had to put something here, so I went with this. The Panic Attack has gone through many iterations. The current one works like this. It has 50% more pellets for a total of 15 rather than 10. The weapon deploys an astounding 50% faster, which makes it lightning quick for switching back and giving your enemy a face full of buckshot. Or maybe birdshot because of how many pellets there are, but anyway. This weapon has a wide but fixed pattern as well. Meaning, while yes, it is wider than the stock shotgun, it is fixed, meaning it's not going to have any sort of random bullet spread. The downsides of this weapon are that successive shots without stopping become wider and harder to hit, as well as a 20% damage penalty per pellet. This weapon excels at being a shotgun. I mean, like a video game shotgun. The stock shotgun is more akin to like a real-life shotgun in my opinion, being good up close. Well, probably would be able to one-shot most people in real life, whereas you can't really do that as much in-game. But anyway, it has decent mid-range. The Panic Attack excels up close and hits like a truck. While the pellets have reduced damage, you have significantly more of them. If you're at a range, you're likely to do no more than sneeze on them. But at point blank, where the shotgun would shine anyway, the Panic Attack absolutely smokes every other shotgun in the game with the exception of the Force of Nature. And even then, the difference is 5 damage, with the fan doing 113 and the Panic Attack dealing 108, 4 more than the stock scattergun. So here's the thing, the Panic Attack has no increased knockback, which means that if you stay up against, let's say, a soldier, you can pretty easily 2-shot them. You can 3-shot heavies even easier since, well, they already have reduced knockback by default. And he's most likely revved up, so, well, he's not going to be moving much. It's easier to get that full up close, ramped up damage. The Panic Attack can be great for dealing with spies who get too close as well. The spy has to get close to you most of the time anyway in order to do anything, unless of course he remembers he has a gun, which most spies don't, so you don't have to worry about that. This thing dispatches the spies using the kunai and big earner in one hit and completely cripples those who are not. This weapon is really good, switched to really quickly, it has a fixed pattern which makes it very predictable, it does a ton of damage up close, it is just phenomenal. Panic Attack does what the shotgun does best, and it shouldn't be slept on at all. That would be it for Engineer's primaries. Now it's time to move on to the secondaries, which will be interesting since he only has 3. You can probably guess which one I'm going to choose. Remember, this is about underrated weapons. There's only 3, so I'll tell you right now, it's not the Wrangler. It's the pistol. Yeah, did you think I was going to say the short circuit is underrated? Not in a million years. As a soft demo main, I say soft because I switch classes frequently, I absolutely despise that thing. So, the pistol. The pistol it's a pistol, pretty straightforward. 12 in the magazine, 200 reserve, unlike Scout's 36. Always thought that was kind of weird. The discrepancy between Scout's and Engineer's ammo pool is super large. I can understand maybe double, triple, like 72-ish, but Engineer has over 5 times the amount of reserve ammo. It's strange. 15 base damage, max of 22, fires fast, you get it, it's a pistol. pretty straightforward. The pistol, like the panic attack, isn't super underrated as a whole, but people seem to over-rely on the short circuit and wrangler. While those items are super good, people seem to think that the pistol is just not competitive. This could not be further from the truth. The pistol is a great finisher tool when you're just out of metal or you don't have a sentry gun in your line of sight. It can be a good weapon to pull out after you just got done dumping your whole tube mag into a spy with 30 health and only managing to do chip damage. The pistol can be a far-range assault tool as well. With 12 rounds, you can shoot the enemy from afar to make them flinch or scare them off. People think, oh, it's 8 damage at that range, it won't do anything. But you'd be surprised by the amount of people who will see that they're taking some sort of damage, freak out, and run away. Even if it's 24 to 36 damage and you only hit like 3 to 4 shots. And sure, 24 to 36 damage really isn't going to kill anybody, but it can definitely be a deterrent to advance unless you are up against a soldier or something like that. Especially if they got a medic girlfriend pocketing them. Soldier and a heavy can probably shrug off 30 damage, but other classes, 30 damage is a good chunk. I keep saying 30 because, like I said, hit 3 to 4 shots, but you could hit more. The pistol is a great secondary. It does what a secondary is supposed to do, and it does it quite well. All I can say is that yes, the short circuit and wrangler are really good, of course, but if you want to be an aggressive, more like battle engineer, or you want to be up in the fight, the pistol may be the weapon for you due to its reliability. Engie segment, like his stature, is quite short. We're moving on to the melee weapons. There isn't much to talk about the pistol. It's pretty straightforward. It's the pistol. So let's move on to engineer's melee weapons. So, for engineer melee weapons, I decided to go with the one weapon that people often have in a loadout but don't actually use, just abusing a slight oversight. Engie mains already know what I'm referring to, the Eureka effect. The Eureka effect has had a long history and always been kind of a weird item since the start. Starting off as a simple 2-stat weapon, and then it got a few new stats, but it always kind of sucked, to be honest, until it became what it is today. The stats are that you can press reload while having your wrench deployed to bring up a little menu. Pressing 1 will bring you back to spawn after playing an animation, and pressing 2 will play the same animation and will bring you to your teleporter's exit should you have one. The teleporter does not have to be active, it just needs to be deployed. Engineers know this trick. It also lowers the cost of teleporters by 50%, which is funny because the Eureka effect received the stat when the price of tellies was lowered from 125 to 50. So now they cost 25 per, which is kind of funny. And it also costs only 100 to upgrade rather than the standard 200, which is where the oversight comes in. You only need to place the teleporter with the Eureka effect. So engineers, what they'll do is they'll have a loadout with the Eureka effect, place the teleporter, and switch to the wrench of choice after to get that reduced upgrade cost and reduced initial cost too, I guess. It's pretty smart, actually. The downsides of this weapon is a 50% decreased wrench boost speed, making it a little slower to redeploy, and also a 20% less ammo from ammo packs and dispensers penalty. The Eureka effect is far from perfect, but don't get it twisted, it's not a bad wrench. The Eureka effect, while being used just as a small, cheaper telly trick often, is actually a great wrench on its own. While most use it than engineer, which is definitely viable, and engineering, if you don't know, is when an Engie will place a teleporter exit near the enemy spawn in a secret place, often not active, so it blends in more, because like I said, you don't actually have to have the teleporter active. And you know how hard it is to spot a teleporter that isn't active, because it's small, low to the ground, there's no color, you get it. So what they do is they wait for the enemy to move up, then they use the Eureka effect to sneak behind them, build a sentry or something, and yes, of course this is an option. Though the wrench works outside of this gimmick playstyle as well. While the wrench boost speed penalty sucks, it isn't the end of the world, and the upsides more than make up for it 99% of the time. Making teleporters quicker for setup, not literally, but sort of. Because you don't have to spend as many resources on the teleporter, you could spend more of your resources on other buildings, as now it only takes 250 metal to get the telly up to full, rather than 600, which is accounting for placing both ends and upgrading them. The main draw of this weapon is good too. If there are no ammo packs nearby, you can quickly teleport to spawn and grab some ammo from the locker before teleporting back. One downside is you actually have to walk up to the locker now. That used to not be a requirement, but whatever, it takes 2 to 3 seconds. It can also allow you to get to the front line much quicker, leaving your teleporter open for teammates. since you could just immediately teleport to your exit. You don't have to walk to your entrance and take up valuable time. Finally, it could be a really good escape tool in a pinch when there is nowhere to run. The animation does suck and it locks you in place for a few seconds, but it has saved me more than enough times. It's pretty good, and it's not something that should be overlooked. The Eureka effect may have sucked 8 to 10 years ago, but those times are now gone, and it's a pretty good wrench in today's age. I think they should remove the stupid 20% less ammo from dispensers and pickups. That is unnecessary, but whatever. This is not a weapon balance video. That was in March. Eureka effect, great weapon. I promised a new segment for you guys, and of course I'm going to deliver. Engineer is a difficult one. I feel like I say this every time, but I'm serious about this one especially. Engineer doesn't have many weapons to begin with, so rattling off 4 of his weapons is more than 25% of his total kit. And on top of that, besides weapons like the Thompson, he doesn't really have any bad or straight up underappreciated weapons. Though there is one that I feel I can briefly talk about. It's not one I'm as passionate about, to be completely honest with you, as some others I've talked about in the past, but it's one that I do believe, so it's not a complete lie. This is the Southern Hospitality. The Southern Hospitality is a simple 3-stat weapon, sporting the ability to inflict bleed on any enemy you hit for 5 seconds for the downside of no random crits and a 20% fire vulnerability. The 20% fire vulnerability is a weird addition, it may seem at first, but like some other downsides added to weapons, it was likely just so this weapon wouldn't be a direct upgrade in servers that have random crits disabled. Frickin' chumps. A similar case to this was the Market Gardener. The Market Gardener originally, the only downside was that it couldn't random crit, and then it could of course crit while you were airborne. Though they added a 20% swing speed penalty just so technically it had some sort of drawback in servers that did not run random crits, such as comp servers or just general community servers that don't like random critical hits. Now that I've insulted about 20% of the people watching this video, let me give you a reason why I think this weapon is underappreciated. Well, it's really not. Okay, it kinda is. I think there's some people who say this weapon is bad. Those people are wrong. They're a very small few. I have heard it before. The Southern Hospitality is not a bad weapon. It has its moments to shine. The bleed on top of the standard 65 damage hit is nice, even if it only ends up doing 30 to 40% additional damage. And that's being a bit generous sometimes. It really just depends on how close a health pack is. Most weapons, like the Tribal Shiv for example, has a damage penalty. Weird. At least you do 65 base damage. That's cool. The 20% fire damage, vulnerability, whatever, is pretty much negligible. It's there for sure, don't get me wrong, but Pyro Engineer matchups, while not uncommon, aren't an everyday common occurrence for it to be a huge hindrance. Unless the Pyro hates fun and runs the scorch shot because he kicks puppies and punches pregnant women. Maybe then. The other downside means literally nothing if you play comp or in a server that has random crits disabled. Or constantly enabled, I guess. One of those 2011 100% crit CP orange servers. Are those still around? I gotta go check. I haven't played on one of those in forever. Though I can't lie to you and say that sometimes the reliability of a random crit, I know what I just said, the reliability of a random crit from your wrench or your jag or whatever you use may be more worth it than any sort of consistency with the Southern Hospitality. Still, I think this wrench does have its place. It flinches enemies, it distorts their screen, it just kind of causes panic. I mean, think of Afterburn. It causes panic because you're constantly taking damage, even if the damage is pretty negligible. It's meant to be a spy deterrent as well. I think that's what it was originally designed for. And it can kind of do that. It's not terrible. You can track spies for a couple seconds, though now that the Inviswatch reduces debuffs by 50%, it makes it a little bit less effective. The weapon is often considered a boring item, which is true in my opinion. Though the only reason, apart from not having much to choose from, for picking the Southern Hospitality is because I've heard people call this weapon bad. That I think is wrong. That's what I'm really putting this in my video for. It's a weird side grade for sure, and it's pretty bland compared to most other weapons in the game, though it still has its niche, and it's not scrap fodder like some people claim it to be. Wouldn't mind seeing it be tweaked though. Like that will ever happen. That's it. That's the Engineer video done and over with. I hope you all liked it. Tune back in on the 10th for my major projects, and come back on the 20th of May for Medic. Thank you all for stopping by. It means a lot to me. Bye.